and welcome to another episode of Broadcast Movie and TV Talk. So I went to the theater on a Tuesday when my theater has their $5 tickets, and I went and saw Godzilla King of the Monsters. This definitely is a movie worth seeing on the big screen, given that you're dealing with giant awesome monsters. Now the plot is severely weak, and I will explain it a little bit later. But when you go to see a Godzilla movie, you're not going for the story, but you're going to see the spectacle of giant monsters fighting. I think it's worth seeing in the theater, but only if you can go and see it cheaply, unless you want to pay more and see it on the biggest screen possible and in the 3th dimensions possible. Then, you do that, since I don't think it's worth paying that much to see. It still does the thing of focusing too much on the humans and cutting away from the action, and like I said, the story is weak, the subplots are weak, anything to do with the human characters is just really weak. This movie is a good movie and is enjoyable and is very epic when they show it, and that's the end of my non-spoilers review. So going into the spoilers and getting right into the story, because this is the first big fault of this movie. So the story is that this woman made a device called Orca that can scan the bioacoustics of the monsters and somehow create an alpha signal so that the humans can basically control the monsters. That's what this movie hinges on, is on this device, and so they plan to use this device to awaken these titans. And this is because humans are a plague to the earth, and these titans showing up is the earth's way of dealing with humans and our overpopulation and war. And so our antagonist humans are making this happen, and the story really makes no sense and is just weak. And I mean, that's the motivations of the antagonists, is that humanity isn't good to itself, so we need to awaken these monsters and make a reset. Next is all the stupid human characters that I don't even remember the names of because they were that forgettable. There's a family that had somebody die in 2014 in San Francisco during, the first Godzilla 2014 movie. And so the dad now hates Godzilla and all the titans, but the mom and daughter work for Monarch. So the antagonist guy finds the mom and takes both the mom and the daughter, and so the good humans bring the dad to get the device back. But then, big shock, mom turns into an antagonist and decides to release all the monsters at once, but the daughter doesn't like this, so she steals the device and tries to help the good humans, or whatever. The point is that all the human characters suck and are too much of the focus of the movie, just like in the 2014 movie. Sorry, I was reading it in that voice just because it's a stupid plot and stupid humans. And this is the next point I want to bring up, is that they still show the human characters way too much. And they are always cutting away or looking up at the action. And you know what? I get it. You're trying to show all this action, destruction, and devastation on a scale from the perspective of the humans to get a sense of the scale. But while these monsters are fighting, there's tall buildings next to them, so we get the scale of all this, so it's not really showing us anything we haven't already seen, especially since this is the exact thing they did in the 2014 Godzilla movie. I mean, these movies do what Transformers movies do, which is focus too much on the humans and not on what the movie is named after and what the people come to these movies to see. Something I noted is that in the movie they say there are 17 total, 17 plus, basically, because they say 17 and counting, of these titans, which most of them are in basically like a sleep state. But then when they broadcast the Orca signal, only 4 monsters show up. And now, after doing some investigating, Kong was not actually one of them. I recently rewatched Kong Skull Island, and that movie took place, in the 60s, and so I mistakenly thought that the monster in this movie that looked like a giant mammoth as Kong, and the mammoth, Kong with mammoth tusks, which I thought makes no sense. But it was not Kong, and that was my mistake, and I know that sounded stupid of me to think that. Anyways, given what they do mention, they do mention Skull Island like 4 times in this movie, 3 times actually, and they mention Kong by name once, but you don't actually see him. But that's not a fault of the movie, just something I noticed. Now, I really have to give credit because the monsters that had like introduction scenes, they did great in making them awesome and epic, and I especially liked the entrance of Ghidorah, who really is my favorite of the bad monsters. Now, I know that Godzilla's been around since the 50s and that all the monsters in the movie have been there, just as long as Godzilla movies have been a thing. And I felt like they relied upon you knowing the background of Ghidorah because of the way they explain him. See, in this movie, they realized that Ghidorah isn't a part of the natural order of the earth, that he is a dragon that fell from the stars, and one character calls him an alien, and another one basically is like, yeah, he's an alien. Now, this made no sense to me because in this movie, Ghidorah was found frozen in ice and is the monster that Monarch kept off the books for some reason. So it doesn't make sense to me that Ghidorah is suddenly an alien without, people having knowledge of this before the movie. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to say that I didn't stay for any of the credit scenes. The important one that goes with the end of the movie, in which Godzilla basically rips off all of Ghidorah's heads and full atomic breaths one of them into dust. And in the post-credit scene, the human antagonist in the movie receives a Ghidorah head. What does this mean? I don't know, but people are speculating that they'll make a giant robotic Ghidorah and use that for a future movie, since in 2020 we're supposedly getting a Godzilla vs. King Kong movie, so there's something to look forward to. Alright, so overall, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, it's a good movie that's enjoyable and epic, but it does have a weak story. That's all I have to say, so if you added the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.